G'day taxpayers. Unambiguously bad labour force numbers. No surprise at all. The economy has been lucky to register 2% GDP growth at any stage over the last 2 and a bit years. Clearly below trend, clearly being smashed by oppressive interest rates, which have been in place for about 2.5 years now, that we've had restrictive interest rates. And at 3.6%, the current official cash rate, interest rates on everybody's assessment, including the Reserve Bank, curiously, are restrictive. And by restrictive, I mean that they're putting more downward pressure on economic growth, on job creation, on inflation, than upside, than stimulatory interest rates. So we know that figure's still about 50 basis points away from where we are today. So the unemployment numbers, what do we see? A 4.5%, 4.5% unemployment rate, the highest in 4 years. It's up now 1.1 percentage points from the low in October 2022 of 3.4%. So that's a material rise in the unemployment rate. Employment, what's that? In the last 5 months has only grown by 38,000 people in total, aside from that monthly volatility. So we're lucky to be averaging 7,500 jobs per month at a time when the labour force is growing at 25,000. So hence the rise in the unemployment rate, of course. So the economy is clearly weak, clearly below trend. And if we believe most forecasts, look at the hard economic data that's come out on household spending, on building approvals, on consumer sentiment, on CapEx, that we're seeing the economy likely to remain sluggish over the next 6 months at least, or at least until the RBA moves interest rates to neutral or accommodative. So RBA clearly, and they had the temerity a year ago to be sort of putting out a speech saying, beware of false prophets. Well, I'm looking at the profits at the RBA, and their forecasting record is an embarrassment. They've got growth wrong, they've got inflation wrong, they've got the unemployment rate wrong, and they've got wages wrong. And they're like pretty fundamental parts of the economy when you're managing monetary policy. So look, the RBA still giving a lot of confidential Chatham House rule briefing to market economists, and they seem to swallow it hook, line and sinker. They dare not query it because, of course, they'll be frozen out, which, of course, they don't want and probably cost them their job. But for anyone who's an independent thinker, who looks at the economy, looks at growth, looks at job vacancies down 33% since their peak in the last couple of years, looks at these labour force numbers, you can only come to one conclusion: monetary policy has to be eased, and eased soon, eased aggressively. The RBA is well behind the curve. It needs to cut, and cut reasonably aggressively. I was a bit cautious about whether the low point would be 2.85 or 3.1. With these numbers, I think I'm erring back towards the 2.85% low point for rates in the first quarter of next year. So next RBA meeting, early November. Look, it's a lock-in. They have to cut rates. And the inflation numbers don't matter. Just by the way, their mandate is both inflation and unemployment. Inflation's fine. Trim mean 2.5%, which it is at the moment. Might be 2.6, 2.7 when we get the next result. Whoop-de-doo. We know that the unemployment rate's 4.5%. So bring on the rate cuts. The jobs market needs it.